Hello, good morning, everyone. Okay, so good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining. It's another insightful edition of our program today. As we continue, this is actually the fourth week of the Precision Agriculture Incubation Program, and we are gradually moving forward. So today we are going to be talking about the steps that we can take to become a certified drone professional. And we have an expert in the house. He's an industry leader uh, within the African contest, and he's going to be doing justice to this topic. But before I bring him up to the stage, it's important that we talk about certain things we usually talk about. So, all right. So, if you are joining, so you can do well to do your introduction, example, your name, where you're joining from. So, do well to put that in the comment section so we can know where you're joining from. All right. So, today, like I said, we are going to be talking about drones. Um, okay, becoming a drone professional. So, um, this is Precision Field Academy, and Precision Field Academy is the organizer of the Precision Agriculture Incubation Program. We've done the cohort 1, and this is the cohort 2. So, this program is actually structured to help raise precision agriculture leaders, young precision agriculture leaders, researchers, agriculture enthusiasts who are actually uh, inspired to change the transformation, to bring transformation into agriculture, leveraging digital technologies like drone satellite imageries. So it's revolves around the use of digital technology to change the perception of agriculture. So what's Precision Field Academy? So at Precision Field Academy, we have this vision to create a world where every young person, regardless of their background, have the opportunity to become a digitally savvy farmer or agricultural professional, driving sustainable and equitable growth in their community through transformative power of technology. And our mission is to raise the next generation of farmers who are tech inclined and digitally savvy. So, Precision Field Academy is like a social enterprise where we train and build the capacity of young professionals in modern and emerging technologies for the future of work and to lead with precision agriculture. So we have core three methodologies. Number one is education and knowledge sharing. Uh, Number two is training and skill development. Number three is coaching and mentorship. So we have six tech skill in focus majorly. Number one is drone technology. So we are leveraging the drone technology to collect data, help farmers make informed decision about the farming practices to actually mitigate the cost, farm efficiently and accurately through power of drone insight. And also we have another tech skill here. This is talking about GIS and remote sensing, and this with the use of softwares around ArcGIS, QGIS, and other GIS software for national agriculture data collection. We have data science in agriculture. Data science in agriculture deals with collection of array of data in various could be in plant health, plant classification, different kinds of data you want to collect in respect to agriculture. And this is majorly just for people who are like plant psychologists, agronomists, farm managers, So at Precision Field Academy, we even have a specific course tailored to use of data science in agriculture. It's called Phyto Mapping Masterclass. And here you are going to be understanding what is called philosophy using sensors like multispectral, thermal imaging, RGB to collect data to actually understand what is happening to the crop per time, understanding the reality of your crop. So, and that's when we say now your crop can speak. So, through the help of digital technology. So we also have robotics and Internet of Things. We had a class previously talking about the use of IoT system to trigger irrigation systems, get the moisture level of the soil, water content in the soil, and all of that. So this is about using digital technologies to change the game of agriculture. By these digital sensors and devices can be used to basically to help streamline your farming operations. Also, artificial intelligence and machine learning. Yes, we work based on artificial intelligence and machine learning. Some previous classes we had during the Fido Mapping Masterclass, participants were given assignments to work on to train a data set that will be able to differentiate certain crop from wheat, like cassava, maize plantation, cassava plantation, to differentiate it from wheat. So we train the model, and when you gather this picture, maybe you take them with satellite imagery or you take them with drones, then you import it into this platform. It can easily detect this, this is cassava, this is maize, and can also get the stand count and all of that. Yeah, so this revolves around the use of artificial intelligence and machine learning. And lastly, our goal is for you to be able to create solutions, agri-tech solutions that can help spearhead the practice of agriculture, bring in efficiency, and help mitigate waste as much as possible. So if you have the passion to have an agri-tech enterprise, looking into developing digital solutions, maybe in livestock farming, in crop production, in forestry or fishery, so you are actually welcome to do that. And it's a joy to give you the full support for you to actually get your game right. So aside from people who are interested in enterprise development, having their own startup, we also see that there are organizations who want to advance their practices, and they actually need people who have the required competence, yes, to be able to function in this evolving workplace of this evolving world of agriculture. So working with Precision Field Academy, learning here will give you the platform and opportunity to get exposed to digital technologies, and this is really going to help you to prepare you for the future of work in agriculture. So why do we do what we do? What are motivation? Number one, we discovered there is a skill gap that needs to be closed. So young professionals need to build skills on both technical and enterprise skill, even soft skill, to be able to become relevant in the future of work in agriculture. By getting yourself familiarized with software platforms and technologies that are springing up, yes, to advance the future of work. Number two, observing the trend is not enough. So youth need to be directly involved. They need to become an enabler and player in the fourth agricultural revolution, and not just mere observer. So number three is that technology is the potential to unlock. Technology is the key to unlock African agriculture potential. So we can ride on the wing of technology, yes, to unlock the potential of African agriculture. So why should you join us? Yes, we are creating the future we want in agriculture, and we've visualized the future. We are creating the future we want, building momentum, raising leaders, training people with this technical know-how. With what a whole lot of information they actually need, yes, to be relevant in the evolving world of agriculture. Number two is we also connected to the world of information and opportunities in terms of scholarship, internship, volunteership opportunity on both local and international scale for your career growth. And people at community Precision Field Academy do benefit from scholarship opportunities and information that goes around in relation to agriculture. So we also take credit to skill development through project collaboration, community interaction, workshops, and university-wide workshops, symposiums, seminars. The can fast track the academy. We are building a community of young tech inclined and digitally savvy farmers and professionals. So, okay, we are gradually moving forward, and we are moving forward to practicals gradually. So, because the practicals are compounded towards the end of the classes, so that we can have a stable and coordinated practical experience this time. Because compared to what we have in the first cohort, we're trying to see a way to actually do things better and make it more efficiently. So, okay, why should you join the pipe or 2 on-site practicals? I quickly want to touch some of the benefits and things you stand to gain. So, prepare yourself. Okay. So when you participate in the pipe on-site practical, that's Professional Agriculture Incubation Program on-site practical, taking place at the Federal University of Agriculture at Abeokuta, Ogun State, Nigeria. And this is starting on 26th, Tuesday 26th of November to Thursday 28th of November. You will benefit the following. Number one is you're going to get a copy of the Drone Professional 3 book, authored by Mr. Femi Adekoya, the vision lead, who happens to be the flying farmer. So these are some of the participants of Cohort 1 who actually got a copy of that book during their home time. So, and the book is actually robust because it's a compendium of different expertise, different experts from their field sharing their expertise and current best thinking on drone technology in different fields, in agriculture, mining, engineering, inspection, and all. So also you're going to get what we call like the hands-on simulation training. So part of this practical training is that you were flying drone, but before learning to actually fly the drone, getting the real drone in position, so you have to pass through the simulation test. We're going to check your coordination, your ability to use the controls, manage situations, emergencies, and all of this information. Yeah, before you get into the real practicals, and also the safety briefings. How you can, but yes, have a smooth and safe flight, yes, without having accident or recording any mortality. So, okay, number 3 is that after the simulation class, yes, you'll be required to go to the field. Then what you've learned in the simulation class, this is the real life where you are at to practice it, because the simulation is virtual, while the physical drone training, yes, you will be required to practice what you've learned in the simulation class. So also, yes, you will have a certification after this program, which is endorsed by ISPER and other partners. ISPER is International Society for Precision Agriculture, and they actually endorse this program, Precision Agriculture Incubation Program. So, and part of our sponsors too, sponsors are Integrated Aero Precision Limited, Dev Global, Dev Africa. So these are partners, they all endorse this program, and these are global brands. So also you have the opportunity, yes, to learn about autonomous drone mapping, aerial mapping, using this like a geospatial mapping now, where you can do 2D, 3D mapping, mapping of a particular farm, terrain, and yes, just to collect data from the street practicing. So witness the first experience of Agra spraying drone life. Yes, so you are going to see different kinds of drone spraying just the general drone spraying, spot spraying, open field spraying, and all of this. So this sprayer drone is actually used to apply crop protection solutions like chemicals to control pests. And aside from that, we can also spray things like liquid fertilizer, plus foliar fertilizer, and all of that. So you are going to witness how this actually work. Aside from, yeah, one other thing is that you are going to join the team to actually build and fabricate a fixed wing UAV for farm aerial inspection. So we're going to be building this fixed wing during the course of training, and we're also going to be doing the test flight. Yes, one other thing you also stand to gain is you get internship opportunity with our supporting partner, Integrated Aero Precision. Integrated Aero Precision is a Nigerian drone technology company empowering farmers with drone technology. And if you actually put your best foot forward and you have very good performance, this can fetch you an opportunity to work as an intern at Integrated Aero Precision after the course of the training. So for you to benefit from all the aforementioned, you are required to pay a sum of 50,000 naira commitment fee to secure your spot. So we give an opportunity for people who are actually still interested. So before the end of today, you can still make your payment to secure a spot of physical training. So and this is the payment details showing on the screen here. Precision Federal Academy, Zenith Bank, 11133704571. That's the account details to make the payment into. So I'm Joseph. You can actually call me. My number is 09060 71 79 43 for inquiries. You want to make inquiries or you don't understand certain things on the program. I'm the program manager, so I'm open to speaking to you, giving you answers about question. And also you can do how to write to Precision Field Academy at gmail.com. Yes, to share. So let's get to today's work, which is the real deal. All right, so we are going to be talking in details about becoming a certified drone professional. And like I said, we have a seasoned expert in the house who's going to be making justice to this program. He's one of the reputable drone industry leaders in Africa. He's fondly called the African drone professional. His name is Mr. Tawanda Chihambakwe. He is the founder and the CEO of Precision Aerial Group, and presently the managing director of the Zimbabwe Flying Labs. So this topic is becoming a certified drone professional. So let me quickly read through his profile as we call. Okay. Tawanda Chihambakwe is the CEO of Precision Aerial Group. He has over 8 years of experience in the drone industry, where he has been a pioneer and a leader in shaping the framework and standard of drone services, consultancy, ethics, and training in Zimbabwe and several countries across Africa. So through Precision Aerial, he established Zimbabwe first Civil Aviation Authority certified drone service provider of precision agriculture and disaster risk reduction services, including aerial crop spraying, crop monitoring, and land mapping for crop protection and early detection of pests and diseases. We provide drone services in various sectors with a strong focus on technology innovation. So in 2021, we established Precision Drone Training School, the leading drone training school in Southern Africa. So with a wide range of regulatory and industry-specific training courses for professionals who wants to leverage and integrate drones in their operational workflow. So precision drone training has become the standard bearer of drone training in Zimbabwe and has batted other local training schools. So as a drone professional, he is a certified drone pilot instructor and also a designated examiner with multi-rotor, fixed wing, BVLOS, and RTM ratings. Licensed in South Africa, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. So as a consultant, he has worked with several companies, organizations, non-profits, and government to set up drone programs by designing turnkey use cases, specific operational guidelines, and protocols from technology acquisition to full integration. So he is also passionate about leveraging technology for social and humanitarian actions, especially in the area of precision agriculture, disaster risk reduction, environment, youth education, community engagement, and public health. So one of his top achievements in the drone industry has been starting Zimbabwe Flying Labs, the first drone technology hub in Zimbabwe and the local chapter of the Global Flying Labs network, which is present in more than 45 countries across the world. Through Zimbabwe Flying Labs help transform the local drone industry through innovation. So as a creator of Zimbabwe International Drone Conference, the premier gathering of drone professionals, civil aviation authorities, and key stakeholders in the region of Zimbabwe. So he has bring together in the industry annual events. It's coordinating annual events, which is the Zimbabwe International Drone Conference. And he said he's honored to be an international speaker on drone technology and STEM education. And also he has on Amazon, he's one of the best-selling authors on Amazon of the Drone Professional 2 book. So he's the co-author of Drone Professional 2. It's a series of Hello, Mr. Tawanda. I don't know if you can hear me, sir. If you are there.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. I can hear you very well. You have the floor now. You can come up the stage to upload your slide or share views.
Okay. Thank you. Let me get my files here. Okay. All right. So while I'm trying to just get my file to upload here, I think I will get started. Whilst it's trying to upload.
Come again, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Perfect. I'm saying, yeah, it's taking a while to get my file uploaded. So I'll go ahead and get started while I'm trying to upload it here. Is that okay?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes. I can hear you now. I can hear you.
Okay. Now I was saying it's taking a while to upload my file, so I will just start and then the file will upload while I'm speaking, while I'm going on with the.
All right, no problem, we are good.
If that's okay.
So, yes, once it's uploaded, I'll bring it up to the stage. All right.
Okay, perfect. All right, let's just give it 1 more minute, and then we can get started here.
Okay.
Okay, it's still trying to upload. What I'll do is let me just start the presentation on my end, and then, yeah, or rather, let me just try and share my screen better. It might be easier that way than to upload. All right. Okay. Please confirm you can see my screen. Hello?
Hello, I can see your screen, sir. I can see your screen.
Oh, perfect.
I'll bring it up to the stage so we can do a slideshow. All right,
Okay.
all right. This is the title page, Becoming a Certified Professional. Okay.
Okay. Right. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes. I can see it. I can see it.
Perfect. Okay. Well, first of all, greetings from Harare, Zimbabwe. My name is Tawanda Chihambakwe. Thank you to Femi and the team at Precision Field Academy for this invitation to share with you some of our learnings, our experience, and our work within the field of training drone professionals. Thank you for the very detailed introduction. It felt very long hearing about all the different things that we've done and been able to achieve, and I feel very grateful and honored to have had those experiences and to be able to share some of them with you today. If at any point in time you can't hear me clearly, please go ahead and stop me, and then I will repeat. I do understand that sometimes technology has some issues and some glitches, and I'm here sitting in Harare, Zimbabwe, and you are where you are from all across Africa, more so in Nigeria. And if there's any issues in terms of the signal connection, please let me know.
Okay,
What I'm going to What I'm going to do today for this presentation is I'm going to go through with you just some of the things some of the things I've gone through in my journey to becoming a drone professional, and also some of the training materials, the courses that we offer now as a training school, and ways that you can also become a drone professional in a manner that will help you to excel and to exceed expectations when it comes to the use of drones in any specific profession or specific industry. But in particular, we are talking about agriculture. So first of all, let's define what a professional is. What is a professional? A professional is a member of a profession or any person who works in a specified professional activity. The term also describes the standards of education and training that prepare members of the profession with the particular knowledge and skills necessary to perform their specific role within that profession. So you can see that the areas that we've highlighted there are any person who works within a professional or specified professional activity is a professional. Then there's a requirement for standards of education and training, as well as particular set of skills and knowledge that must be acquired and that are necessary for you to perform in your specific role. Okay, so I want you to keep that in mind as we go through this presentation. I want you to think about the standards. I want you to think about the specific skill set required. And I want you to also see yourself as a professional going forward. In terms of my background, I think you've already seen just from the introduction, and just a bit of background for you. I am a remote pilot, a certified remote pilot or a drone pilot. I am also an instructor, a certified instructor of pilots. And I recently qualified as the first independent designated examiner, flight examiner, in the country of Zimbabwe, where I'm from. So now I work alongside the Civil Aviation Authority in promoting and ensuring the standards are maintained and increased when it comes to the level of training that takes place, and for anyone who's going to then be certified as a professional. So I'm really privileged in that I get to work with the industry as well as the regulator in bridging the gap between the requirements of day-to-day work as well as the regulatory standards that must be maintained. My journey began early in 2016 when I began experimenting with first-person view drones, and I've been involved in a number of different national initiatives, including helping to support the development of the local regulations in my country, as well as the establishment of the different pillars that make up an industry, from training schools to, as well as the remotely piloted aircraft operators certificates, the ROCs, as well as, what was mentioned before, the work that we do in bridging and bringing together the industry through our different events, our conferences. So we do a lot of work in that space. We also work with other countries. So we support other countries in developing their standards. For example, in Kenya, we've worked with one or two schools there to establish their training schools there and their standards and their curriculum. We're also doing the same in other countries here in Southern Africa, in Zambia, in Botswana. And we are working hand in hand to ensure that the standards are raised and that we maintain a good standard when it comes to operations and the use of drones in a specific profession. I also have the privilege of being able to speak at different events alongside my brother there, Femi, as well. I have had the privilege of presenting some of our work at the Food and Agriculture Organization headquarters in Italy late last year. And our specific topic here was around the work of training when it comes to our training programs in that space. A bit about our company, Precision Aerial Group. Precision Aerial Group is a group of companies that encompasses Precision Aerial, which is the operator, the drone operator, the commercial drone operator. Precision Drone Training is our Civil Aviation Authority approved training school. Zimbabwe Flying Labs, which was already mentioned before, is the arm that looks specifically around innovation, research, and development of the technology itself. Then we have an arm that focuses on events and conferences, which is the drone conference. Precision Drone Services, our commercial drone arm, focuses on the commercial use of drones for various applications across agriculture to security, mining, insurance, and asset inspections, telecoms, and all sorts of different things. One of the things that I'm more involved with is on the use of drones for agriculture. So we provide services to both smallholder farmers and large-scale farmers across a variety of different crops and in different use cases, both for the aerial mapping, data collection, processing, and analysis, as well as the aerial crop protection when it comes to using agriculture drones for spraying. We do quite a number of different things in that space. Also, one of the amazing or exciting things that we get to do as Precision Drone Services, our commercial arm, is we work in the security space. We provide security services for high-value assets. But more than that, what excites us even more is our work within this space. We do drone light shows. We've been privileged enough to organize the only 2 drone light shows that have taken place in our country. Our first drone light show was in September last year, where we had 100 drones entertaining a crowd of over 10,000 people at an event. These drones are small drones that have an LED light and that create different shapes in the sky, as you can see with the drones that are lit up the sky at our very first ever drone light show. Our second drone light show took place in Victoria Falls, which is one of the 7 wonders of the world. And this was the largest drone light show that's taken place in Southern Africa, or rather, down south here in this area, and the second biggest one, I think, on the continent of Africa. And you can see there all those drones were lighting up the sky over the gorge, overseeing the amazing Victoria Falls. This was the light show and some of the different designs that were up in the sky with an African theme. You can see Africa there, then our country Zimbabwe, then welcome to Zimbabwe, and the different animals that are represented there, the lion, the elephant. It was amazing, quite a sight. And we are really excited that we were able to do this. This drone light show had 500 drones in total made up this drone light show. So those are 500 drones in each of those clips there that you can see. The video of this is available on our YouTube page. If you go to Precision Aerial, you look up Precision Aerial on YouTube, you can go there and view the full drone light show. Zimbabwe Flying Labs has already been talked about. Zimbabwe Flying Labs, like I mentioned already, is our R&D arm. It's also our STEM education arm. We do a number of different things, but more so we're part of a global network of technology hubs that focus on creating a platform for local impact and allowing more people into the space. We are involved in a number of different things, from aid robotics, health robotics, eco robotics, development robotics. We are now in more than 45 countries around the world, majority of them being in Africa. I think there is a Nigeria Flying Labs as well in Nigeria. We also, through Zimbabwe Flying Labs, or through the Flying Labs network rather, we have software and hardware partners, DJI, Pix4D, Esri, amongst a number of different software and hardware partners who help us and support us to do the specialized training, which we'll talk about later on. Then our core focus for today is this division here, Precision Drone Training, which is our training arm. We are dually certified in terms of us being certified locally by the Civil Aviation Authority of Zimbabwe, but some of our advanced courses are certified by the Flying Labs Network, and we'll talk about those. Our aim is to train professionals for the future of work, to be able to equip and enable people to leverage the technology, which has really transformed the way work is done. And that's really our job. Our focus is on remote pilot training, so we do a lot of personnel training and training the individuals. We also provide some specific training for organizations to help them to establish professional drone operations. At this point, I also want to just remind you guys that even as I present, towards the end, I will allow for questions. If you have any questions that you guys want to ask, please do write down the questions and then we can go through them together towards the end of the presentation. As always, whenever I start a training program, I say to people, welcome to the wonderful world of aviation. Why I say that? Because the remote pilot, the use of drones fall under aviation. Drones form the unmanned aviation section of the aviation industry. That is why people who qualify to be able to operate a drone are referred to as pilots. Okay, you are a pilot, and effectively that's what you would become. So when we say a drone professional, you are actually a professional pilot that has a specific skill set in operating unmanned aircraft. Okay? So if ever you had a dream to be in aviation or be a pilot, well, this is clearly the path. In one of the easiest ways you can become a pilot. And you can have the title to say, I am a pilot. Some of the knowledge and skills required if you're going to then be a professional in this space, which we'll talk about, is you've got to have an understanding of regulations, compliance, and ethics. You should understand the difference between what is regulations, what is compliance, and what is ethics. And these are important for you to know. You must also understand drone operations and their development, as well as what is required for you to conduct different types of operations, given your specific geographical location and specifically country to country, there are differences. Then you must also understand the safety management system and be able to design one and understand the importance of safety and have the necessary protocols in place to operate unmanned aircraft. Then we look at sector-specific training. There's no point in becoming a remote pilot only just to get the initial license. What you need to have is a sector and specific training in a specific use case. So you must be able to then use drones for agriculture or for mining or for security or for entertainment or for whatever it is, for filming. Okay? So we emphasize on that. Then also there's need for you to understand as well the drone maintenance and the basics of how to maintain your drone. We also then promote the internal use policies, so around developing SOPs, around the use of drones in a specific organization and use case. A note for you here as well as we get into it. Please note, when I'm talking about a drone professional, I'm talking about specifically someone who is able to use drones and who's been trained and has acquired the knowledge and skills to operate drones, to repair them, to operate in a specific use case, to train on them, and to offer consultancy service in that space. So it's not to say a professional is only a person who flies the drone, right? And here are some of the jobs we talk about when we look at that. In the industry, there, and this, please note, this list is not, it's not exhaustive. So you can always add more to this list. But for the sake of this presentation, we're going to look at these ones. So you have the drone pilots, which is the majority, which is you guys who are wanting to operate the actual drone, to fly it, to program it, to do the flight planning, to operate the drone and send it from point A to point B for different purposes, be it for mapping or for spraying. We then have GIS and data processing specialists. These are people who are professionals who are trained on how to take the data gathered by drones and maybe satellites as well, and then turn that into actionable insights and information that can be used for a number of different use cases. I heard someone mention yield estimation and stand counts. Those are some of the things that you're able to get from that. Then you have drone data analysts, which is similar to the processing. And those are the people who then would use things like artificial intelligence, machine learning, different algorithms to then do predictive analysis or any other information along those lines. Then you have repair and maintenance technicians, people who are professionals in being able to repair and conduct maintenance on remotely piloted aircraft or unmanned aircraft. Then you have the developers of the software themselves, people who are actually designing the software that we use within the drone industry. Then you have the hardware manufacturers and professionals in that space who have the skill set to build, to design, to build different types of aircraft for different types of use cases. Then you have educators and consultants, as well as drone training. People who are like myself, amongst other things, people who are instructors, people who are examiners, who are there to actually bring the knowledge and training to the entire industry as a service. Let's look briefly at the journey, in terms of the journey to become a drone professional. And I will refer back to this at different stages in my presentation. So let's look at where the journey starts. So initially, where it starts when it comes to becoming a professional and becoming an operator, one of the things that are important is to understand the basics. So the basic is what we call the remote pilot license. In most countries, it's referred to, especially in Africa, remote pilot license. In other countries, they refer to it as a remote operator's license, or they refer to it in different senses, In America, they call it the Part 107, or they just call it drone pilot license, depending on the region. But we're talking essentially around about the same thing. The remote pilot license is your government issued license, which then confirms that you've met the minimum standard required to safely operate an aircraft, a remotely piloted aircraft. It does not speak anything specific or relating to specific use case. So in other words, you get your remote pilot license, but still you will have no knowledge and understanding of how to operate a drone for agriculture. Okay, that you would need to learn in an advanced course. When we look at level 2, that's where we have the advanced industry or sector specific courses, where now you specialize and say, right, I intend on using drones for agriculture or for conservation, inspections, mapping, mining, medical delivery, security, etc. You will then take a specific course that focuses on that specific area that you want to focus on. So essentially, we have drone pilots for agriculture. We have drone pilots for conservation. We have drone pilots for mapping, drone pilots for medical, okay, deliveries, drone pilots for security services. There is no one size fits all. You can't take someone who has done a course on drones for security and then put them in a use case for drones for agriculture without them going and getting the requisite training and knowledge and skill set related to the use of drones for agriculture, as an example. After that, you can then progress to getting a rating. So you can then choose to say, I want to do a beyond visual line of sight rating or BVLOS rating, or a fixed wing, which is now a specific type of aircraft. Or you may choose to be an instructor. It's hard for you to jump from being level 1 and go straight to level 3 without the context of the actual level 2 or the actual experience of itself in the field. Then level 4 is our continuous professional development, which I will then speak to you about later on in the presentation. And we'll look at what is the continuous professional development that we need. The types of training we're going to look at, as I mentioned, you have the regulatory compliance. So regulatory compliance is essentially to say, right, this is the legal requirement necessary for you to operate drones in a specific country. These are the remote pilot license, your beyond visual line of sight rating, as well as fixed wing, depending on the use case. Then you have the operational training, which is what we call the industry-specific training, or in a certain case, fixed wing or vertical takeoff and landing or VTOL training. Then we have type-specific training, where you have an aircraft-specific training, where you might have a very sophisticated drone, and it would be wise for you to get the training on that specific aircraft rather than to assume that because you know how to fly one drone, it means you know how to fly any type of drone. That is not the case at all, and you should never assume that. Okay, and we'll look at these different trainings. In particular, what I want to draw attention to is the remote pilot license, which is the first level, and give you a bit of context around that. As we look at that, here's some information for you to know. And please know, this is a general guide. This is typically what our training course looks like in terms of how long it takes and how much time you can expect to spend in class. This is a general guide. It's not to say it's hard and fast. Depending on the school you go to, and that does the training and the specific requirements in your country or country to country, this may differ slightly. Okay, but you'll see here when it comes to the theoretical training, there's a prerequisite. In our country, the minimum age at which you can obtain a remote pilot license is 18 years of age. You are also required to demonstrate that you understand English. And why is English proficiency important? English is important because English is the language of aviation. So the world over, globally, in any country that you're going to go to, right, and where you want to become a pilot, English is the language of aviation. So you must understand English. You must be able to speak it. You must be able to read it and write it. And all instruction when it comes to aviation is done in English. So you must prove that you have at least a minimum understanding. In our country, we have what's known as the ordinary level, which most people acquire at age 15 or 16. And that's the minimum requirement. Then there's also a requirement for you to have a class 4 medical certificate. Why is this important? Why is a medical certificate important? A medical certificate is important because you have to be able to prove that you are at a minimum fit to fly, fit to operate an aircraft, because the remotely piloted aircraft, in other words, a drone, can pose a danger and a risk to other airspace users and other aircraft. And we want to make sure that you are fit to operate that aircraft and that you're not going to, collapse or fail to be able to see the aircraft because of poor eyesight and that kind of thing, right? So the Class 4 medical certificate is the lowest class, or the easiest one to get. The harder classes are Class 1, 2, and 3. And depending on your country may choose to allow drone pilots to get licensed under a Class 4. Other countries like South Africa require a Class 3 medical certificate, which is a bit more intense as a medical certificate that you have to obtain. Of note, and I can tell you briefly a brief story about this, is last week we had another one of our training classes going on for the month of, I think it was the month of October that was wrapping up their class. Every month we have a training class where we train pilots, and we had a group of about 18 pilots who were training. And in that group, they all got their medical certificate. But there were two people in particular that had very poor eyesight, that even with glasses and corrective lenses, they were still struggling to see the remotely piloted aircraft 30 meters away. Which then brings the question, how do they pass their medical certificate, right? And it shows you then also that the level required is so low that, as long as you have glasses, you are signed off as being maybe okay enough to see. But only when you get in the field and you're actually now doing practical training, do you see that that the limitations are way more than just being able to pass an eye test. So unfortunately, those two were not able to pass their tests, and they're looking at maybe rewriting and having corrective work done on their eyesight to allow them to be able to actually operate remotely piloted aircraft. In terms of theory, they were great. In terms of actual flight training, they were doing okay, but just the eyesight alone is what restricted them from being able to actually get their remote pilot license. So moving on from that, the training for us when it comes to theory, it's 4 days theoretical training. So that's in class. This is all day, followed by a 1-day theory examination. We normally allow 2-3 days in between the theoretical training and the exam to allow people to study. Most people, when they do the theory, they think, oh, I can just pass it. It shouldn't be difficult. And then they get a nasty surprise when they have the exam and they discover that, oh, actually, it's a lot more difficult than I thought. So we always encourage people to train and to practice and to revise their work as they do their theory training. We then have the practical flight training, which takes place at our Civil Aviation Authority designated training field. That is 4 days of practical flight training. And this is really just to cover the basics of how to control an aircraft in both what we call GPS mode and in what we call ATI mode, in a mode in which the aircraft is not balanced. And the aircraft is susceptible to the different conditions like the wind and that kind of thing. Then we have what's called the letter of recommendation, or LOR. And then we finally have the skills test, which is done by the Civil Aviation Authority examiner. So let's get into it. So the theory training takes place at our Civil Aviation Authority designated training facility, where we have classes that are run by our instructor. Similar to what's happening now, this is a training, though it's being done online. Some of the course material and content we cover in our initial course. This is just some of the modules, not necessarily all of them. We have some modules here. So these will include introduction to drones, and this is just an overview giving a history and a background to how drones came about. Then we have module 2, which is RPAS technical, which looks at the technical structure, so that this can be considered construction and parts in other regions. Then we have air law or regulations, depending on the country. It might be referred to as regulations, other places it's air law. Then we have aerodynamics or theory of flight. And then we have navigation, meteorology, which looks at weather, human factors that look at human factors. We have flight operations and planning. And then we have an extra module, which we've thrown in there, which is use case applications, where we teach people about the different use cases of drones in a different context. What I'm going to do is we're going to go through a little bit of this to give you a context of some of the material that you'd be trained on when you're getting your remote pilot license, okay? Some of the things and elements that are important to consider are things like rules and regulations, your legal responsibility, and regardless of which country you are in, when you are operating remotely piloted aircraft, you as the pilot in command are legally responsible for the safe conduct of each flight. Failure to comply with the rules and regulations can lead to fines and criminal prosecutions. We've seen that in our country. Recently, we've seen in the news, and it's been reported in newspapers and online and social media, several people have been arrested in our country for operating drones without a license, for operating an unregistered drone, and that kind of thing. And that will only increase with time as our country becomes more strict in terms of implementing the rules and regulations that are in place. We have had in Zimbabwe our regulations in place since December of 2018. We're actually in the process of having a review, an updated version of the regulations, which we expect to be published next year. And in that time, one of the things we're working on with the government is to actually do implementation of the regulations. Why this is important is so that it also brings value to you who is choosing to become a professional. Can you imagine if you spend your money to become a drone pilot and someone else in the industry decides they're not going to actually get their pilot license and they're just going to buy themselves a drone and then just decide to start flying and offering services? What value then does the license have if people can get away with flying without a license? So one of the duties of you as a professional is also to encourage the implementation of regulations, the enforcement, the policing of the industry. Those are some of the things that we encourage people to do and be involved in. Moving right along, the course also, the moped license covers things like line of sight and the limitations around that, visual line of sight, extended visual line of sight, beyond visual line of sight, and the requirements that you must fulfill to carry out each type of operation. We also look at different rules around flying in populated areas. What are the rules? How close should you fly to people? Or are you allowed to fly to people, near people, or near buildings? What sort of permissions are required when you're flying in populated areas? The good thing is, if you're using drones for agriculture, most times you're operating in the outskirts, in the fields, on the farms, where there aren't that many people. But you may find yourself in a situation where you do need to fly in a populated area. And part of the training is to teach you how to do that. We also look at airspaces and the different restrictions around the different airspaces, as well as what's known as a notice to airmen or a NOTAM, and how to operate an aircraft in uncontrolled and controlled airspace. We then also look at maintenance and airworthiness. So we look at the different things that are required to keep your drone and maintain the airworthiness and maintenance of your actual aircraft. We then look also at height and BVLOS restrictions. So how high are you allowed to fly? How far are you allowed to fly your aircraft with your specific rating? So please note, when you get your remote pilot license, it doesn't mean now you can fly however you want in terms of how high you want to fly or how far you want to fly. There are limits to how far you can fly, how high you can fly, based on what is endorsed and what you've been trained on your specific license. So you then would need to get additional ratings and additional training to then fly at further distances and at higher altitudes. Okay, this is important to take note of. We also train on weather conditions and train professionals like yourselves as you aim to become a drone professional on how to interpret the weather, on how to read the weather, and how to make decisions based on the weather conditions. Often we talk about, a pilot is only as good as his preparation and the level of his preparation. So what we don't want is a situation where, can you imagine you're planning to go and map out 300 acres or 100 acres of land, and you want to gather data and do a population count and do a yield estimation to estimate how much of a particular crop is going to grow. And you drive out of town and you drive 200 kilometers away to the farm, only to realize that the place is raining. It's raining. Where you are, and where you're coming from, the city you're coming from isn't raining, but where you're going, it starts to rain literally as you arrive. You'd have wasted your time and the day going there. Whereas you could have simply done a weather check to be able to then determine whether it's raining in that particular area, at what time, and how you should plan your life. So this is important when it comes to training. Being able to read aviation weather maps and reports are really important. It's very different to just being able to get your weather app on your phone. Okay, it's not that, the app that you have maybe on your phone that tells you today's weather. We're not talking about that one. We're talking about a specific aviation weather report that helps you to understand specific weather conditions and patterns and predict when at what point it's going to rain and how you should plan your missions around that. So this is an area that we spend some time on in teaching you how to do aviation weather reports and forecasts. We also then look at risk assessment to say, okay, when you're on the ground, you are wanting to carry out aerial crop protection or crop spraying, have you considered all the different hazards? How do you ensure that you don't end up having an accident or an incident with the aircraft where you could crash into power lines, into poles, into property, into the actual crops themselves? How do you ensure that your operations are done in a safe manner? How do you ensure that you consider all the different hazards, be it high-level hazards, mid-level, low-level hazards? There could be things on the ground, for example, snakes or bugs or pests that could actually affect your operation, which you have to consider on a day-to-day basis when you're going out to the field. There could be high-level hazards like birds, right, that you wouldn't think would be an issue until it becomes an issue, until you have a flock of birds in your operational area. Only then will you realize how dangerous a flock of birds can be to your operation. A swarm of bees doesn't seem like an issue until you have a swarm of bees come into your operational area when you're flying your aircraft. And if you have an incident where you're flying your drone and it flies into that swarm of bees, or that swarm of bees comes towards your drone, the likelihood of the swarm of bees affecting your aircraft is so high because they're most likely to get lodged in the motors and prevent your aircraft from being able to perform its function properly. And it could essentially actually fall or drop out of the sky simply because of bees. So training around assessing the risk and the hazards and creating an awareness is really important as a pilot. And this is what we train you on when it comes to the initial remote pilot license. So you learn about this amongst many other things and how to mitigate these risks so that you don't just wake up and go and fly and think you can just fly. You have to have the right practice. You have to have the right methodology as a pilot in terms of how you approach your flying on a day-to-day basis. Flight logging as well, we look at that in the course. We look at doing flight logs and teaching you how to maintain your logs. We always emphasize this in our training programs to say the difference between you and any other drone pilot who's certified the same way as you is your hours. Any pilot, even a manned aviation pilot, they're rated based on their hours and the type of aircraft they've flown. So a senior pilot has more hours than a junior pilot, and simply by the number of hours you've flown. So you must maintain a flight log where you record every single minute that you've flown for. Now, you're not recording every single minute in terms of actual time, but at the end of each flight, you will record to say, right, I flew for 30 minutes here, 17 minutes here, and over time, you will build up your hours. So the difference between me and you, to be honest with you, yes, I'm a professional and that kind of thing. The only difference between you and I is I have more hours. I have more stick time behind the controls of a remotely operated aircraft than you do. That's the only difference. Okay? And that's the only difference between you and the next person who is a professional or who's really good at their craft. So the more hours you put in and the more you record them, the better you are going to be. And the more likely you are to be hired by clients or even by a company. Safety is important. It's a critical factor that we also have to consider. So we also promote safety and say, right, in our training, we are trained to have these different items. The way you dress as a pilot must reflect that you are a professional and that you're a pilot. You must always have a high visibility vest that also designates and denotes that you are a drone pilot or a licensed drone pilot or a certified pilot, whatever you want to call it. You must always have a first aid kit, a fire extinguisher, and you must always have caution signs with you at the operational area, even when you're out in the farms, even where you think, oh, it doesn't matter. You must maintain a level of professionalism in how you conduct yourself as a drone professional. I'm going to skip over this and I'll come over to it later. Some of the things that we look at as well is flight parameters. We look at visual line of sight, extended visual line of sight, restricted visual line of sight, and then beyond visual line of sight. So these are the operational parameters in which your rating of your license will be issued. So for most beginners, in fact, for all beginners, you're only issued with a visual line of sight. In other words, you're only allowed to operate below 400 feet, which is 120 meters, and up to a distance of 500 meters maximum. So what does that mean? It means automatically, if you look at this, just by looking at this in operational parameters, if you are planning on doing mapping and providing mapping as a service, and you know that you're planning to do mapping work for a farm that is maybe more than 50 hectares or 60, 70, 80 hectares and above, right? Or let's say more than 150 acres and above. Automatically, it means that your visual line of sight rating is not enough, because the type of operations you're going to do are going to go beyond the 500 meters that we're talking about here. So what that tells you is that you need to then understand the type of operations you're going to do, how the drone operates within that specific use case, and the distance limits. So what are the vertical and the lateral limits of where my drone is expected to go? It might be different when you're using a crop spraying drone. So when you're using a crop spraying drone, you might not send your crop spraying drone beyond 500 meters in one direction, right? Simply because of the way it operates and it moves, and because of the shape of the field. Okay, you may or you may not, but you'll only know that when you get into that specific field and use case. That is then what helps you to determine to what level do you get your rating at. Do I need a BV loss rating or not? You mustn't just get it for the sake of getting it. Most times, yes, it's good to have it, but it doesn't mean that in all cases you need it. Okay, but understanding your flight parameters is really, really important. Then we do the practical flight training once we've done the theory, where we send people out to the field and they do training. So the approved training aircraft in Zimbabwe, approved by a Civil Aviation Authority, is the DJI Phantom 4, which you can see there. In other countries, they may approve a different training aircraft, but they will always have an approved training aircraft. In other words, you can't just train on any drone that you want to train on, even if you have your own drone at home. It may not be the drone that is an approved training aircraft. Most countries that I know of in Africa use the Phantom 4 or the Phantom 3 as the approved training aircraft. I know South Africa does, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Kenya, other countries. They use Namibia, they use the Phantom 4 and Phantom 3. So depending on your country, it might be a different aircraft, but this one has proven to be a good one for training. Then we have what we mentioned before is the letter of recommendation and skills test. So normally what will happen is once you've done training, before you can do the skills test, we do what's called a mock exam, where the school or the training instructor or chief flight instructor tests the student to ensure that they're actually ready to take the skills test. Once they are approved, they will get what's known as a letter of recommendation that will allow them to then write the skills test. And hopefully, this can be you, smiling and happy that you've passed your remote pilot license, or you've acquired it, you've passed your skills test to acquire the remote pilot license, and you have become a new drone pilot. That is essentially what we want you to become if you aren't already one. But beyond that, we want you to become a professional. This is only stage one that we've talked about. Then moving right along other stages, you may want to get a fixed wing rating, which then is again a training course that allows you to learn about how to operate fixed wing aircraft. The only difference here, if you will see here in our country, is the prerequisite. The prerequisite is no longer 18 years of age and that English language proficiency and medical certificate. The prerequisite is a valid remote pilot license. In other words, it's everything else needed for a remote pilot license, but because you'd have obtained it, it means you've achieved it. So the minimum requirement here is to have a valid remote pilot license. Then you can undertake the theory training. The difference with fixed wing is that we also have simulated training, which is computer-based training. That's the CBT. Then you have a simulated test before you go out to the actual practical flying. So fixed wing training takes longer than your initial remote pilot license and requires more effort, and actually is more difficult, quite difficult actually, I would say, for you to be able to get your fixed wing rating. And you've got to realize that depending on your type of operations, you may or may not even need the fixed wing rating, but you will see depending on the type of operations you plan to do and the type of aircraft you plan to buy. We then also have beyond visual line of sight training, and this is your rating that you get. The training for beyond visual line of sight is also the same as fixed wing in that you need a valid remote pilot license. And then you also have simulated training as well as theory training, and then practical flight training as well. As a training school, we also offer instructor's course. So for those of you who want to become an instructor and who see a future in terms of teaching and equipping the next generation of pilots, we also have an instructor's course. This training process requires you to have a valid remote pilot license, a valid medical certificate. We then do 3 days of theoretical training, 1 day oral examination with civil aviation inspectors, 4 days of PATA training, and then an instructor skills test with the CAAZ examiner. But beyond all of this, these are the requirements at law, all right, in terms of the regulatory compliance. But the other requirement we have is that you must have a certain number of hours that you've flown for you to then want to become an instructor. You can't go from becoming a moped, getting your moped license to becoming an instructor immediately without experience. Otherwise, you can't bring value to your students. So we then say you've got to have a minimum number of hours. And for us, normally, that's normally in the hundreds of hours. So we're looking at maybe 500 hours worth of flight time for you to then be able to qualify to then become an instructor. The course content for the instructor, this is our train the trainer course. So we look at a number of different things when it comes to the instructor's course. And these are just some of the modules, just for reference. We're not going to go into these in detail. Then we move on to advanced courses. So you've obtained your moped license. Now you want to get an advanced course. So we have a number of different advanced courses. These are just some of them. We've got more than 10 advanced courses that we offer that are specific. I want to draw your attention to something. If you look here, what we've profiled here, you'll see that there's a different course. There are two different courses for agriculture. If you look at the bottom two. One course is specifically for crop spraying. The second one is for aerial mapping and data processing and analysis, which shows you how specialized the industry can become. Because when you're operating a drone for crop spraying, that type of drone is very different to the type of drone that's used for mapping and data processing. The skill set required for you to use a drone for crop protection and spraying is a different skill set required to the person who's going to use a drone for gathering data and then analyzing it and getting insights. So we offer those as two separate courses. We now have a combined course where we've combined the two in one course, but that one's a bit long. But it's important that we have that context. Also, for context, please note, look at these two courses here, the drones for disaster risk reduction and drones for agriculture. Both of these courses are aerial mapping data processing, but there's a difference when it comes to mapping for disaster management and mapping for agriculture, okay? So those courses you're taught different things within those spaces. So I'm just trying to show you the difference when it comes to what an advanced course would look like. This is our combined course now for aerial crop protection, which we have co-created now with the Flying Labs Network. We also have other courses like cinematography that we offer. So those who want to use drones for filming, etc. We have a course for organizations and for businesses. So let's say a company wants to integrate drones into the organization. We have a course that teaches them about the return on investment that you can expect from drones, about the operations and what to expect, regulatory compliance, and how to actually measure success when it comes to implementing drones in your organization. Then moving right along, we also have regulatory versus type-specific training courses. So like I mentioned, the DJI Phantom 4 is the training aircraft that's approved by the Civil Aviation Authority. But in a real sense, you might get trained on that, but in actual fact, you need to operate the DJI Matrice 30T, for example. So we then offer, type-specific training courses. Again, an example here. The training aircraft that's approved for fixed wing is this Discovery ST, which almost looks like a toy. But in the real sense, when you've done your training, what you need to operate is the Foxtech ADK 250, which is a vertical takeoff landing aircraft. And that one now will require specific training, a type-specific training, not just the regulatory training, okay? In other words, you can't be trained on the Discovery and then hand over the controls to the Foxtech to someone who just obtained their license. They will still need the type-specific training on the Foxtech, as an example. Then let's look closely at the advanced course on drones for agriculture. This is really what Precision Field Academy asked me to speak about and to look at. What does it take to be a professional within this space? The first thing is to deal with the why. Why do you want to learn about drones for agriculture and become a professional in this space? Well, here's one of the reasons. Use case for drone data in agriculture, predictive analysis through machine learning for yield estimation. So one of the good use cases that are being used now in terms of the drone use case is mapping, using drones to map out a particular crop. Let's take maize, for example, and you wanted to predict the yield. So what you then do is you do what's called a population count or a stand count, and you do that post-emergence and at different stages of growth. So you use the drone captures the data, you take the data, you process it using a computer with a specific software, and then you can use algorithms or machine learning tools to help you then to count the population in that particular field. that is how we then do the predictive analysis and we do the yield estimation. There's also things like post-emergence assessments, like this one that we did recently for someone who grew a particular crop. And you can see there's patchy areas where the crop didn't take root. And doing this map allowed us or helped the farmer to be able to then go in and replant because he saw that the crop hadn't taken root in a particular area. And through ground truthing and being able to go and see specifically what was in that area, he saw that there was issues in the soil in those particular spots that looked like those round white spots. And then he was able to take corrective action at an early stage. Now imagine if he didn't use a drone for this, he would only discover that there's these issues too late in the season when the crop is already grown to a mature stage. Then also use case crop spraying. This is us spraying soya beans at a particular farm. As you can see there, you can see the drone flying over the crop there and spraying. And the reason why they actually called us in to spray is because of waterlogging. If you look closely at the bottom there, 2 pictures, you can see that there was waterlogging because of heavy rain. And when it's waterlogged, the tractor can't go in. So this farmer has a boom sprayer, a tractor-drawn boom sprayer, but he couldn't take it in because the tractor would get stuck in the mud. So they called us in to spray because obviously the drone flies above the crop. So that's one of the advantages of having a drone versus the traditional farming equipment. Moving right along, some of the other training that we get in this particular course for drones for agriculture is software applications. I heard someone mention before I started my presentation, training on ArcGIS and different other softwares. That's part of the training that goes into the course. Then we also train on use case applications, pesticide spraying, fertilizer spreading, weed control, pest control, irrigation planning, crop spraying, malaria control. Our course also looks at photogrammetry. So this is the mapping side of the drones. And this is still under the advanced course for drones for agriculture. We look at what is a drone survey. We then look at photogrammetry for drone mapping. We do comparisons between the UAV, which is the drone, a plane, which is aerial, and then satellites. We also look at different types of sensors. So the DJI Phantom 4 Pro, for example, camera and what it can produce in terms of data and the different sensors. We also look at other sensors like your multispectral, Parrot Sequoia being an example. This is an older type of sensor, but it's a multispectral sensor nonetheless. We then also look at different considerations when it comes to mapping, image acquisition, ground sampling distance, the overlap. We also look at different elements in that space. We look at flight planning software as well, the different types of software that we use. And this is an example of what you would learn as well in the course, is how to design the polygon or the map area that you want to map out and how to design it in the software, and then how to orient the lines and make sure that you're going against the wind or using the wind to your advantage, rather, when you're planning. So the principles that you would have learned in the remote pilot license then come and apply because you're understanding weather conditions and how the wind affects the aircraft. So that will help you to ensure that when you're mapping, you get the right data. Because you can imagine if there's heavy winds or strong winds, if you're flying your aircraft, and you're getting what we call a tailwind, that's going to affect how the images are captured, because they're most likely to be blurry or they're most likely not to be captured properly. So we then teach you to say, right, you fly against the wind or into the wind, right? So that you can ensure that your aircraft is able to capture those images properly. And your aircraft is actually going to be fighting and resisting against the wind, which actually, in a sense, slows it down in a way that allows you to capture the right field of view, okay? It sounds counterintuitive, but when you look at it and you study it properly, you realize, okay, flying against the wind is better than flying with a tailwind and the wind is pushing you along, okay? That's just something for you to take note of. And I'm speaking specifically around multi-rotor. This applies more so to multi-rotor type of drones, okay? Then we teach you how to just connect the drone to the aircraft and how the mapping actually takes place and the work being done in that space. This is just an example of what you would expect to see when you're actually doing the course and doing the training. Now let's move quickly to continuous professional development as I wrap up my presentation. Some of the things that I want to encourage you guys to be able to do is to read books. There was already mention of Drone Professional 3 as being a book that you guys should get. I encourage you guys, get that book, read around it. There's a lot of useful nuggets in that book that can teach you around different things that you won't even learn in a training course. different things like opportunities or maybe even the business of drones in that space. So get that book, Drone Professional 3. You're also fortunate that that the founder of Precision Field Academy happens to be one of the co-authors of the book. So that also helps, and that's an advantage, and I would encourage you to get that book. I co-authored these 2 books. They're a little bit outdated now since we have Drone Professional 3 and 4, but still good books nonetheless. There are also drone conferences and workshops, demos and exhibitions. I can't emphasize this enough, guys. One of the things that has helped me to advance in my career and to become a renowned professional within the space across Africa is going and attending seminars, conferences, and events. Femi is very good at this. He attends any conference and any event that he can get to. Why is that important? It helps you to build your network. It helps you to meet with other professionals or pilots in the journey. It helps you to find ways to collaborate. It also opens up your mind to see new ways, new approaches that companies are developing and that they bring to the table. So anytime you hear of an event, even if it costs you money, right? And normally it will cost you money, invest in yourself and attend a conference, attend at least 1 or 2 conferences a year in your industry, in the specific drone industry. Make sure you attend. Make sure you sacrifice what needs to be sacrificed for you to get there. I promise you, you will not regret, and I promise you it will help push you further and forward faster than anything else. This is an example of our conference that we had here, last one, 2022, our drone conference. We hold an annual drone conference that brings together professionals from all across the continent. And we do drone demonstrations and different things like that. So we had all sorts of different professionals come from all across Africa. And this is some of the advantages of coming to drone conferences like this. You get to see technology at work and you get to ask questions and learn a lot from that space. We also do retreats as Flying Labs and as a network. And again, these opportunities for us to learn. And I'm only highlighting this to encourage you to say, anytime you get a chance to meet up with other professionals, go, do it. Even create your own if necessary. Create your own retreats, create your own events, even if it's a half-a-day event. Meet up over, get some meat together, get a braai stand, go eat some meat and talk about things, right? Retreats are good. Fellowship is very important. Also, drone industry reports are really, really good as well. Try and sign up for this one, drone whatever, that one at the top there, .com. Try sign up for that one. They issue, I think every couple of months, they're issuing out a report on different things that you can read and learn and understand what's happening and what's likely to happen in the industry. It also gives you an edge and keeps you ahead. Then lastly, as I wrap up my presentation, I want to talk to you about continuous professional development and the need and the importance of you doing these things in particular. So what are we looking at here? I've already mentioned about point number 1, take additional courses, ratings to advance your skills. Don't stop at level 1. Don't just get your moped license and end there. Get the advanced courses, get your BVLOS rating, your fixed wing. Then read books and sign up for industry newsletters, like I mentioned. Subscribe to YouTube channels of drone influencers. I'll put my YouTube at the end of this, so you can also subscribe. Attend conferences, workshops, and webinars. Join drone pilot networks and forums. So really, I believe that as you're joining Precision Field Academy, you'll most likely be in a group, either a WhatsApp group or an email group where they can send you information. Make sure you pay attention to the information they send there. Make sure you contribute in those forums. And make sure you ask questions. Then also, number 6, follow industry leaders on social media. If you aren't already on LinkedIn, LinkedIn is a very good platform for you to learn different things, connect with different professionals within the industry, not only in your country, but also across Africa and across the world. Make sure you set up your LinkedIn page or become more active if you're not active on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is definitely one of the best platforms for professionals because it's a professional platform. It's different to your other platforms like your TikToks and Instagrams and all that, which is more social. LinkedIn is a professional one. I can't emphasize enough the importance of having a LinkedIn page, an active one, and using that to your advantage to learn and to grow. Then lastly, I always emphasize this, practice, practice, practice. The worst thing that you can do if you plan on being a drone professional and you plan on actually operating drones themselves, the worst thing you can do to yourself is get the drone pilot license and then not fly for 2 years, over a year, okay? The thing about this industry and this profession is it's a use it or lose it skill. You've got to use it. Once you've gained the skill, you've got to practice. You've got to continuously continue practicing. Even if you're not carrying out any missions or any projects of work, put in the time to practice. Okay, the minimum amount of time that I would expect someone who's a licensed professional to have is at least 1 hour per month. And for the most part, that means maybe about 1 or 2 batteries or batteries every month. Okay, 1 hour of your time a month. Go find somewhere where you can fly safely. You'd have to determine where that is in your country. It could even be at home in your yard or at someone's farm, whatever it is, right? Wherever it is allowed to do that. Take the time out, go and fly. Just fly and practice and do your maneuvers. Do not assume that because you got your moped license, now you can just sit on it. You've got to continuously be exercising that muscle. Practice, 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 practice. I can't emphasize that enough, guys. I can't. Why I'm saying it so much is because we have renewals. The drone pilot license, for example, is renewable every 2 years. So you have to revalidate it every 2 years. So you get your license initially, and then you have to come back and revalidate it through doing another skills test. It doesn't mean you redo the whole course. You just do the practical flight skills test part of it every 2 years. And what I've seen, and I saw it recently, is someone got their remote pilot license and they didn't fly for 2 years. And then they came and they want to revalidate. And it's almost like, I mean, even from a theoretical perspective, they didn't even know half the things that they're supposed to know, in terms of regulations and compliance, because they had forgotten their theory. They never used it. And now when they were flying again, it's as if they were starting again because they just were not competent. And it's scary when you have people like that and they just come and they want to revalidate their license, but they haven't been practicing. So I emphasize again, guys, do what you need to do. Find a friend who has a drone, put in an hour at least a month once you get your license. That'll help you. Okay, I think that's it from me. My encouragement to you is, if you haven't already started, I'm encouraging you to become and to start your journey to become a drone professional today. These are my contact details. If you want to reach out to me, that's my work number there. So in case you send me a message after hours, I will not reply, just FYI. And then that's my Instagram, and then that's my YouTube channel or YouTube page that you can go and subscribe to and follow for more information. Thank you for your time. I would like to now open up for any questions. For those of you who have questions and want any clarity or anything, please do go ahead, and the floor is now over to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Tawanda. This is a very insightful and profound class. Sharing with us your journey and your experiences in the drone industry ever since you got in. Since 2016, it has been a very, very worthwhile ride. I know there are stories of pain, struggles, challenges, yes, but yeah, it's really good to see all these achievements. I'm particularly inspired by this achievement, and I believe that the drone industry in Africa, yes, we keep waxing stronger, and because new opportunities, new potentials will still come up. And it's also our goal at Creation Field Academy to contribute tremendously to the growth of this industry. So we are so much grateful. We are expressing our unreserved appreciation for you coming, honoring our invitation and joining us in this program. So our participants, ladies and gentlemen, we are currently at the section of question and answer. So in case you have questions, do well to drop them so our speaker can quickly attend to them before we round up completely. Okay. This is not more a question, but people are just giving their attestation like it's an interesting session. Yes, it is. So if you have questions, do well to drop them in as soon as possible so we can address that before we end the stream. So I'm just going to wait like 2 minutes. So if we don't have any question, that means we call it a day. Do you have any question here? I'm trying to check if there's question from. Okay, I think there's one question here, Mr. Tawanda. They were saying, agricultural engineer from Algeria. How can I join your program? I think Algeria will be closer.
Is that a question?
Yes, it's the question. He's saying, I am an agricultural engineer from Algeria. How can I join your training program or something? I don't know if he's referring to you or something that it doesn't really make the clarification on that. So I think that's the only question.
Okay, great. So my quick answer for that question is please take down my contact details and please get in touch, and then we can discuss how we can support you from Algeria with the training program. There are parts of the course that can be done online, some are more in person, but we also have training partners, I think, in different countries as well that potentially could help and support in that regard.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I'm not seeing any question from a participant. Okay. So thank you very much, Mr. Tawanda, for honoring our invitation and for joining. It's actually great to have you here once again. You are here on the first edition, and this is the second edition. Yeah, so it's a whole lot of insights that you really shared, and I particularly gained so many useful information again from this section. So, in the absence of questions, so we can call it a day. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining. So, for the participants who are here, information will be dropped on the official WhatsApp group. About the proceeding of the training we'll be having tomorrow. All right, thank you everyone for joining. We've come to the end of the meeting. Bye.